All right, guys, thanks for joining us again. We are back with Oz today. She is my personal narcissistic abuse coach. She is the one that got me through my no contact phase and is still helping me maintain my healing today. She is back for part 3 of our Trauma Bond series. This one is called Trauma Bond Physical Addiction. So we're going to be talking today about the physical aspects of trauma bond. We've talked about the mental aspects, the emotional aspects, right? And we're going to talk about the physical, which is really interesting because I don't know if a lot of people realize some of this stuff is all, intertwined. This video here is going to cover some very sensitive topics that don't get talked about often. We're going to talk about the physical and sexual side of trauma bond. I see a lot of comments from people asking if sex is part of this. Is sex part of narcissistic abuse, And that's what Ozzy is going to be here to talk about. So some of these words and phrases that she uses are going to be triggering. So if you are not into that and you're not ready for this content, please skip it and save it for another time. But if you are open to it, we're going to be discussing intimate partner violence. We're going to be discussing sexual abuse, sexual addiction, and things of that nature as it relates to trauma bond.
Yes, absolutely. I think the trauma bond, just to look at it in the sense of one component is not enough. And we need to understand it on a mental, emotional, and the physical aspect of it. Abusers weaponize sex. They weaponize it. And there's a reason why they do that. They weaponize it in order to keep you tethered to them for control. And if you are the victim of this trauma bond and sex is being weaponized, you may feel that control is actually love. The motive behind the abuser is to keep you under his control. The other piece is that abusers feel entitled to sex. And this reminds me of you on our sessions. And let me explain it first. Abusers coerce the victim to believe that their body's not theirs and that they owe their partner sex. This can actually escalate. It can turn into the hideous crime of partner rape. If I may elaborate a little bit on some of our sessions, how you shared with me that one time scenario that you had COVID and your ex was demanding sex. I don't know if you remember that or if you have any recollection of that, but you were baffled that he would actually be thinking about sex and feeling entitled and demanding you when you were physically incapable of probably even getting up to get yourself a glass of orange juice.
I was in the hospital.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't, I was on oxygen.
You were on oxygen breathing, right? So clearly we can see physically you need a team to even do the average things that we do. Go to the restroom, eat, drink, breathe. You need help for that. And here is the abuser feeling entitled to your body, even at its weakest and worst stage. I remember you telling me, I want to talk, I want to communicate, I want to understand, but all he needs sex. And you were telling me that you are giving him sex daily, but he wants more and more often, and it's not enough. It's like for the abuser, sex is like this insatious hunger that they need to have it. And there's reasons for it. It really is largely about control over you. Let me share with you some of the myths that the victims believe in a trauma bond relationship. We believe if we give him more sex, he will be content. We believe if we give him sex, he will be faithful. If we give him more sex, he will be less stressed out and be kinder to me and my kids. If I give him more sex, he will stop being so controlling. You married him, so you owe him sex even if you don't feel like it. Listen, you guys who's listening, whether you're married or not married, your body's yours. 100% of the time. You do not, nobody owns your body. You do not have to give in because you're married. We believe these lies, these myths around, and this is how we know we are in a trauma bond. We think giving them what they want sexually will fix and end everything, and it doesn't. It never does. It just gives them more control and reinforces the trauma bond. It's very common that we revert to what he wants, giving the abuser what he wants so that he'll stop yelling and hitting.
I remember that conversation all the time. And I just remember being so disgusted and also just baffled at how somebody could just be so, I don't know if the right word is vulnerable with their sexual needs, because he sure wasn't scared to say what he needed sexually. You know what I mean? Man, he was just very demanding, and entitled is the right word.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I heard so often, like, if you're not going to give it to me, we shouldn't be married. If I'm not going to get it from you, who am I going to get it from? I might as well just go get it myself. And keep in mind, like, this is after I've already been given so many guilt trips and fights about this topic that I've given into committing to once a day minimum. So it's not like this person's not getting any, you know?
Oh, absolutely. When the abuser uses the sex as a weapon, a lot of them are literally like, they're sex addicts. Like, they need that to regulate. They need that to control you and regulate them. Control you. I almost feel like control is not even strong enough. It's
like sex trafficking, but in a home, in a domestic setting.
Absolutely.
Is kind of what I feel like it is, you know, because at first I remember I would openly disagree with that when he'd say stuff like, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to meet my needs. I would just be like, why would you even say that? That's so messed up. But then after a while, you know, you get in trouble so many times. And then, you know, you get stuck in this trauma bond further and further in all the other ways, like the emotional and psychological ways. Then you've got this side of it, and it's just this side of it is also it's like really damaging, almost in a really weird way, worse than the others, at least for me. And so it's just really, I look at it kind of that way, because you give up.
Yes.
Stuck. So, but you know every day that there's sex that's going to happen. You know?
Yes.
And whether you want it or not. You know, and at this point you're like, you know, the fear has set in. You're afraid of this person now, but yet you also need them and love them at the same time.
Eventually, we adapt and normalize this life. And we actually start giving sex just to feel safe again, because now it's our responsibility to soothe them so they don't hurt, harm, attack. Right. And that's where the oxytocins kick in. Emotionally, it wants us to reunite, so we try harder, we give more sex, and then they can't have enough, so they become unfaithful, and they go, and then we think it's our fault because we didn't give them enough, we didn't do it enough, although we hate it, we don't want to do it, but we do it anyway. Their needs becomes overpowering over our safety and our well-being. Now we're in a radical reinforced trauma bond and giving sex and just succumbing to their coercion, right? Because it's their supply. That's their narcissistic abusive supply. They now put you 100% in the role through sex to soothe them. And they have learned to scare you by verbally and emotionally weaponizing you, coercing you, demanding verbal abuse. The guilt and the shame is all that. I remember your ex was pretty verbal about it. It wasn't like a covert, would be more like just start withholding until you just go, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Well, is it this? Is it that? Okay, well, let's just have sex. It'll be better. And then they're like, oh yeah, you figured it out. But with the verbal abuser, they tell you, you owe me. I married you. This is what wives do. This is what wives do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just believe that this is what we're supposed to do. And that we just give into it over and over again. And it's like this addiction for them that they can't stop. If I may, I also want to leave you guys with what is healthy sex. Super simple, super to the point, but here's what it is. Healthy sex is consensual, respectful, and safe. You are in a trauma bond if you feel like you have to, while he is, just to keep his abuse down. That's really what it is. We start doing this to keep their abusive temper tantrums, anger, rage down by giving it, which, by the way, doesn't work. They always want more. They want more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not enough. Clients come to me and say, I gave him all the sex he wanted. I gave him everything he wanted, literally 24/7. And now he's coming to me and saying, it's your fault I'm gay. It's your fault that I went and cheated on you. It's your fault that I went back to my ex. She gave it to me more than you. It's your fault that I watch pornography. If these are times when you're saying no because you don't want to, you don't feel like it, you're not in a good place, you're sick, you have COVID. It's going to always, when it's always your fault that they acted out sexually, you're in an abusive relationship. When it's your fault that they had to go somewhere else to get it, you're in an abusive relationship. When they are raging because you don't give it, you're in an abusive relationship. If you are succumbing to the sexual desires of your abuser, start getting help. You don't have to leave tonight. You don't have to leave in the morning, but you can find someone or support system and start little by little. You need to get help, you need to get support, and you need to tell the truth to somebody, one person. Tell the truth. Tell a couple of people your truth. Start with that. I'm a survivor of sexual molestation from my covert narcissist father. You can be trauma bonded to your father. You can be addicted to your father, as I was. You can feel that you need to take care of every mood, emotion, and thought they have that could be harmful to them. You learn to soothe them, although they may or may not be continually doing it. It might have just happened when you were a child, or it may continue to happen. That's where Stockholm Syndrome comes in. But as a survivor, it's been a lot of layers and unpacking, because with parents, it's what we're born into as normalcy. And so anyways, you can definitely be trauma bonded to your parents. Absolutely. But also don't lose sight of the hope. And that's what I love to see, is people continue to empower themselves after these dynamics and make it as much right. Make it right with them for what they've been through as much as possible. There is hope on the other side.
Thank you, Azadeh, for being here. If you guys have any questions at all, Azadeh is available for remote sessions, for Zoom sessions, over the phone. She has 2 books already, and she's writing a new one, and you can check those out on her link tree, on her bio. Her Instagram is breakfree_rise and rebuild. She's also in a lot of the videos on my page, so you can find her there as well. So thank you again, Azadeh, so much for being here.
Ooh, thanks for having me.